Well, here's a change of pace for those of you who haven't seen some of the older videos in which I was playing a Sliver Queen control deck. They've seen maybe the Edric control decks. I always play a control deck, but they definitely have some very different feel to them. This time, however, I'm playing something new. It is an Oloro Control Deck, so I'm just calling it the OC. Anyway, I'm going to go through the cards first, and then I'll go through a series of games that I've lined up, which will take a little while, but hopefully not too long. And then I'll bring up the deck list at the end for those of you who might be skipping to the end of the video to see that, and will miss most of this. So first of all, the deck list, and I'll bring it up this way, and then I'll bring it up the normal way at the end. Here is the deck list. Oloro is in the sideboard, of course, and for white spells we have Enlightened Tutor, Land Tax, Swords to Plowshares, Tithe, Oblivion Ring, Humility, Moat, Terminus, and Unexpectedly Absent, which is a huge benefit to this style of deck, being as how you really don't want to play a card like Disenchant that's too narrow, but you really need to play a card like Disenchant. Unexpectedly Absent functions as a disenchant for everything, planeswalkers, creatures, whatever. Unless it's an animated land, you can solve the problem with Unexpectedly Absent. Then for blue, you've got Stroke of Genius, Future Sight, Tezzeret, Force of Will, Cryptic Command, Jace, Mystical Teachings, Fact or Fiction, Spell Crumple, Hinder, Forbid, Muddle the Mixture, Mana Drain, Counterspell, Merchant Scroll, Copy Artifact, Remand, Memory Lapse, Impulse, Mana Leak, Mystical Tutor, and Brainstorm. And in black, we've got Mind Twist, Liliana Vest, The Abyss, Yawgmoth's Will, Toxic Deluge, another huge benefit to decks like this. Not only is it a cheaper Wrath of God, a splashable Wrath of God, one that you can cast using a Soul Ring and a Swamp, but it also, on occasion, sometimes you will put your commander out into play with this deck, and you can Toxic Deluge to kill anything with 4 toughness and below, leaving your commander the only thing that survives. So carrying on, there's Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, and Imperial Seal. And then in multicolor, we have Vindicate, Limdual's Vault. And in colorless, Karn Liberated, Gilded Lotus, Well of Lost Dreams, a total bomb, a constant target for tutors in this deck because of the interaction with the commander. It's basically an Ancestral Recall every turn for 2 mana, or half an Ancestral for 1. If you think about Ancestral Recall, you spend 1 card in order to get 3, which means you're up 2 cards. With Well of Lost Dreams, you spend 0 cards in order to get 2, which means you're up 2 cards, exactly like an Ancestral. 2 colorless mana, Ancestral every turn. It's unbeatable. Thran Dynamo's in, Warm Power Stone, Vedalken Shackles, Crucible Worlds, Coalition Relic, Chromatic Lantern, Winter Orb, Talisman of Progress and Dominance, Scroll Rack, Isochron Scepter, which is a complete and total house if you put, of course, a counterspell on it, everybody knows that. But if you put Unexpectedly Absent under that thing, it is unbelievably amazing, because you can activate it and you cannot pay any more than 0 for X, but Unexpectedly Absent for 0 mana puts your target on top of the owner's library, so you can use Isochron Scepter to lock them out of their draw phase until they stop playing non-land permanents. They will never draw another card. And of course, if your opponent's not allowed to either A, play non-land permanents, or B, draw any new spells, they've lost the game. It's completely amazing. Anyway, there's Grim Monolith, Dimer Signet, and Azorius Signet, Soul Ring, Sensei's Divining Top, Mana Vault, Expedition Map, Mox Opal, Mox Diamond, Mana Crypt, and Everflowing Chalice. And then in lands, we have the Mishra's Workshop, which if you aren't playing Gaia's Cradle, you need to be playing Mishra's Workshop. If you aren't abusing Mishra's Workshop or Gaia's Cradle, there's probably something wrong with your deck. You've got to abuse one of the two. I do have this idea that somebody's going to put together a deck that can abuse them both. I think it's going to be awesome whenever somebody does that. I haven't seen it yet, though. Anyway, Workshop, Ancient Tomb, Wasteland, Strip Mine, Bajuka Bog. There's a snow-covered swamp, and there's no basic swamp other than that one, and the reason is that you use snow-covered because mono-black decks always use snow-covered lands because of the land that lets you look at the top card of your deck and put it in your hand if it's snow. And on the off chance that they're playing the artifact, which exiles a basic land and then acts as a mana flare for the lands that match that type, you'll be able to take advantage of their exiled swamp, snow-covered swamp, by playing one of your own. You've got to play a basic land for land tax, so you might as well play the one that potentially could help you out. There's a snow-covered island for the same reason, because of that artifact, and a basic island just in case they're not using snow. There's a basic plains and a snow-covered plains, same rationale on those two. Arid Mesa, Scalding Tarn, Misty Forest, Verdant Catacombs, Scrubland, Marsh Flats, Windswept Heath, Bloodstained Mire, Watery Grave, Underground Sea, Underground River, Sunken Ruins, Polluted Delta, Dimer Aqueduct, Tundra, Mystic Gate, Hallowed Fountain, Flooded Strand, Azorius Chancery, Outer Carway, City of Brass, and Command Tower. And now we'll get to some games. Hopefully this isn't boring you yet. So let me go through these, and hopefully it doesn't bore you at all now that I think of it. So anyway, here's a game where my opponent goes first, and these were just selected from everything that I played that was saved into my games column, along with one other game that wasn't saved but I have queued up. So this opening hand is obviously a mulligan into this, which looks like a keeper. So I get to start the game at 42, and I fetch myself a Tundra and play first turn Mindstone. So I then play Chalice for 2, having drawn a Demonic Tutor. And you can see quickly how these games get how these games get completely ridiculous as soon as you get Well of Lost Dreams now. So watch what happens. Well, sadly he gives up. Okay, there will be other games with Well. So here's game 2 against a different opponent. He's playing Erebos. Now this is interesting because Erebos is a counter to the life gain from Oloro. So if Erebos gets out, Erebos will shut off the life gain, which means if you're combining this with Well, you've got no card drawing from that route. This is one of the reasons why the deck's running things like another reason why you want to run Unexpectedly Absent, and why we have Oblivion Ring to remove things, as well as Karn, and of course you can bounce things with Cryptic Command and such. So anyway, the best answer, of course, countering it, but that's not always an option, right? So I get turn 1 Tundra, and turn 2 I play Thran into Shackles. He gets down Liliana Vess, and I just throw away a land, of course. So turn 3 I go ahead and tutor for Well of Lost Dreams. If he gets Erebos down, of course Well's going to shut off, but I'm taking a risk here. But it was probably the wrong call. But because he didn't throw away a land here, I figure he's either out of lands, or he only has 1 left. He's down to 4 cards already. He would have thrown away lands if he could have, for sure, if he had lands to spare. So based on that read there, I went for it, and it turns out it works, because he does not have, in fact, have a land for the turn. So he Buried Alive's some good stuff, Braids, Visara, and whatnot. And then he also, Liliana Vess is hitting us both. I throw away Toxic Deluge, figuring it's unlikely these things are going to make it into play, but if they do, I'll deal with them later, and I want to keep developing. So I draw, and I have just a complete mana flood. And he hits for another land. Now I'm kind of missing that Deluge, but he still misses a land drop. He's got to be dying over there. So here I've got nothing else, total flood, so I play this guy. And the nice thing about this guy is he says, you know, draw a card per turn on his own due to his ability, provided, of course, my opponent doesn't Erebos. Oh yeah, that's the other reason why I threw away the Deluge, because I didn't have any answer to Vess, and I wanted to build up permanence. So he ultimates Vess and sets piles up just like this here. Well of Lost Dreams and a bunch of lands in one pile and everything else in the other. I definitely take the everything else pile and let the Well go, especially since he hit his 4th land drop there. That showed what he was thinking, but okay. And then he plays the Abyss, so my guy is going to die. And due to the way stacking happens, his effect goes on the stack. Mine goes on the stack first, and then his, because I'm the active player, so that means his will resolve first. So my guy will die before I can draw a card off of Oloro's ability. So I'm out of gas, and I top deck Tezzeret, and the game ends. Winter Orb. Go ahead and fetch because I don't really want to be drawn anymore. And yep, I Tezzeret for 1 and go ahead and strip mine him, drawing that will there. He sticks around like a champ for a little while longer, but he's dead. So Tezzeret for monster mana, cast a gigantic Yawgmoth's Will, and I'm about to play my Well of Lost Dreams, my Expedition map, and my strip mine, as well as my Enlightened Tutor, and he was right to scoop. So here I was facing, could have been gone very differently, but you know, the thing was, I didn't realize, I have to admit, I didn't realize the interaction between his commander and mine until after I had searched up the well, and a friend of mine who was watching pointed it out to me, the risk. And so I mean, I didn't think he had the land there, but I didn't think he had the land there, and I was looking for a counter spell, so I figured well would be the best way to get it. And then after my friend pointed that out to me, I was like, oh my gosh, did I just make a huge mistake? So luckily it turned out I didn't. So he's playing Skullbriar, so I just throw down Moat early, and he's obviously hurting for green mana over there. 2-color deck struggling for mana, is not a good sign. I'll just sit behind my Moat and my Oloro, my undestroyable, untargetable Ivory Tower. It's just crazy. So I go ahead and vamp at the end of his turn, and I go get, I bet you guessed it, oh yeah, Ancestral Recall every turn, baby. And he gives up. So here I am playing against Oloro against Agave. It's named after, I'm playing Agave for any tequila fans. Anyway, so I win the roll. Play first turn Articar with Tithe going, and I go ahead and just, I'm not going to bother to get 2 cards, I just want to develop, so I just get 1 and ramp out Worn Powerstone early. He gets Sylvan. Ouch. So not much I can do about that, and I figured with Sylvan Library, it's very low value to put Memory Lapse underneath an Isochron, so I put an Impulse that I can try to keep up. I mean, I can put, Memory Lapse under an Isochron, but he's just going to be able to pay life to continuously, you know, draw multiple cards per turn. So this doesn't set him back much. And then he plays Soul Ring, and I think, man, I sure would wish I had a Memory Lapse into that Isochron. Oh well. And Arista the Redeemer, which does not make me think anything bad there. So looking at my options, I decide I'm going to go for counters instead of Dark Tutelage for card drawing, mainly because, and then I search for mana, but since I don't see any, I take Karn. And the main reason here is because I figured this way I can keep up with counters. I can just sort of stall the board. He's going to run out of mana eventually with the Sylvan Library, and this deck doesn't care about damage whatsoever. It's completely immune to, it's as immune to taking damage as any deck has ever been. So damage is not even a thought for me. So all I need to do is get control. In a turn, I go ahead and just search for a Soul Ring in that vein. More mana, more control. Excuse me. And then main phase, play the Soul Ring, play the Signet, and play the Impulse. Find myself a, I was previously using Disenchant over Oblivion Ring. Then later, due to the possible threat that Erebos presents, realized I'd be better off with Oblivion Ring. Oblivion Ring also, because I can muddle for Unexpectedly Absent or tutor or mystical for it. I have a Disenchant anyway that I can go fetch in the 2 slot, and another beauty of that card. And then with Oblivion Ring, I have the ability to Enlighten Tutor for a solution to problems as well. So it's actually better. It's tech against a threat to this deck, and it's better. It's a better tutor package. So I'm gonna go ahead and just close this commander for now. He plays Explosive Vegetation, and I finally decide that he's getting a little too aggressive there, and he just gives up, I guess, because I don't know. Maybe he realizes he's too far behind there. Some people just give up very easily, though. I mean, he had an active Sylvan Library. I think that was like 5 cards in hand. I think it was pretty aggressive. But then again, he may have had just a handful of removal, which is one of the other benefits to this deck. You don't have to counter bribery, and you stick a bunch of removal in their hand, it's all worthless. The only threat that results from having no creatures is Telemin Performance. That is a card to be afraid of. So anyway, I main phase Expedition Map, end of turn, play Brainstorm. Oh, main phase Brainstorm, actually, sorry. Was trying to set myself up to decide if I wanted to map before I drew, I guess. So I'll go ahead and get Mind Stone down. I think I may have pulled Mind Stone as well, actually. I gotta double check. Fetch a strip. I'm holding Crucible, of course. So strip mine his land. Pass for the turn. I've had enough tapping out for a bit. And I want to Mystical Tutor for Force of Will to go with that Limdol's Vault and that Crucible in my hand. So Impulse into land and then throw it away for the Mox. I'm going to minimize his commander, and that allows me to both develop and cripple his mana even further. So continue the suppression of blue mana. Go ahead and minimize my commander. I'm already at 50, of course. This is just the insanity of this commander. Commander is completely off the charts. So I just continue developing, and because I can hardcast Force, I just say go. And also because what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip at the end of his turn so he cannot Bojuka Bog the strip mine ever. Now, if I didn't have a counterspell in hand, I wouldn't play it that way. I would strip aggressively and hope he didn't draw a bog, and the reason being that I would try to keep him short mana so that if he draws like right here, if he draws a say a 6 mana spell, right, 1 2 3 4 5 6, I can counter it and then strip mine. But if I didn't have the counter in my hand, then I would pre-strip him so that he'd be stuck playing 5 mana or less spells. Anyway, so end of turn I just strip, and I go ahead and, since we had nothing going here, I go ahead and search up an Unexpectedly Absent. I was kind of, playing with the new cards a little bit here. Probably not the best card to go get, but certainly a reasonable choice. So end of turn I strip, and then I attempt to make his Prismatic Lens go away far, far away. So 4 turns until we see the lens, and then I search for Well of Lost Dreams so I can just get crushingly ahead. Of course, he's got no more blue other than the sphere, so I'm feeling comfortable there. Continue my wait for Bojuka Bog. So as soon as he plays a land and enters attack step, that land dies. I didn't want him to change his mind after combat. Use it. Drawing 2 cards per turn now. Develop. We've got Force of Will. It's good. And he plays Echoing Truth on Crucible. I'm not sure what he thought that was going to do. He should have at least bounced the Well. As soon as he plays a land, of course, I strip and then tutor for Mind Twist. Draw 2 and take his hand away. This time I don't activate Strip Mine, but he's got nothing, so I can now draw 2 and then strip, play, strip. Now I don't care if he bogs. I mean, if he does, this game's over anyway, so it's fine. So end of his turn, I go ahead and just Limdol's Vault, since he refuses to give up, and I've got 63 life. I think it'll be okay. It's just amazing how many cards this guy breaks. Like, Limdol's Vault's very powerful in this format with 40 life, but this guy just breaks anything that has a life cost at all. You'd think I'd be playing Necropotence for that reason, but what I wanted was consistent mana. I think Necro belongs in a Zur deck, but probably not this deck because I don't really want to... You don't need it. Like, just run Well. It's easier to play. It's cheaper, and it wins the game just as easily. Like, and you don't have those issues of sitting there staring at a Necropotence that you can't cast. You'll always be able to cast Well, and in fact you can cheat it into play with Workshop and the like. So for whatever reason he doesn't give up, so I just go ahead and do him the favor of killing everything he's got, thinking that would get him to give up, but still he refuses, so that's fine. So then I start searching for a way to get my Mind Twist back so that I can take him down to having 0 permanents and 0 cards in hand. And I figured I'd go get a discard outlet and keep him at no cards in hand, no permanents. Why? I don't know. Just because I like to. Because he wasn't giving up. Might as well. So, there's the ultimate discard outlet. Karn the Man. Down he comes, and my opponent has no cards anywhere. And if we wanted to, we could exile all of his cards from the game by playing Bojuka Bog, and then carning his hand if he holds it, carning his land if he plays it. And if we wanted to exile his entire library, I could get Jace, and Jace's ultimate would exile his library while Karn kept the rest of his stuff suppressed. You can literally remove all 99 cards in their deck from the game by getting him down to nothing in hand, nothing in play, putting Karn out for endless exiling, playing the Bog, and then activating Jace's ultimate. It's kind of fun. Anyway, so here's a game against Edric, and he opens with some crazy Chancellor thing, but it mills off important cards, Soul Ring, which is huge, Moat, and Isochron Scepter, all very disappointing because I figured with this hand I was going to put this under a Scepter and just win. Now I've got to come up with a new plan. So, and then he opens with Arbor. The card that he uses is really terrible actually, but it does change things when you're playing like a Silver Bullet style deck. So of course instead of Soaring I get Crypt. Generally with this deck you're gonna fetch Crypt anyway because it's just better than Soul Ring when life isn't an issue. But so he gets to start drawing off of Edric, and I realized that I misplayed because I couldn't get. See, I was going to fetch Scrubland with Marsh Flats, but his initial guy milled off the Scrubland, so I wasn't able to put a white mana into play, a white-black when I Imperial Sealed, which meant that on this turn I cannot play land and then kill his Edric with Unexpectedly Absent, which was the actual plan. So because I can't do that, 2, 4, 5, 6, I can't Karn either. I have to just say go. It's awful. So now he's going to get to draw some serious cards, and he does. Boom, boom, boom. And then I fetch a Strip Mine since I do have a Crucible. Gives me a long-term possible thing to do. However, before we get there, I Edric for 1. So his next card is something, and then under that is an Edric. And then with the rest of my mana, I play the Abyss, and I figure this, what it'll do is it'll start eating his creatures and play them by the time Edric comes down. It won't matter too much. He is an Oracle of Moldai, of course it reveals Edric. So there's still an Edric sitting on top. And the other nice thing about this is you can't, and Unexpectedly Absent is you can use it in response to an opponent's shuffle effect and force them to shuffle away their commander. And while it's in play, while it's active, any shuffle effect they use will shuffle away their commander, or if that's the thing you targeted. And he screws up in Rampant Growth, so Edric goes bye-bye. And that's a good example. That was a good sample there. So I go ahead and just get down with the big man, Karn, kill his Oracle before he can start putting more lands into play. Even though he's got 3 power and this only has 3 counters, I do have the Abyss, so I'm good there. And I decided I'm not going to Strip Mine him because what I was afraid is he might have something crazy like I play an Edric like Terastodon here. He is generating a lot of mana, and I really didn't want to Strip Mine him for, I mean, what's it going to do? Put him down to 8, 9, 10, 9 mana plus a land he could play is 10. I actually would rather that I have the extra mana. I will activate strip if we get to a pause in the game, and I will attempt to cut off one of his color sources, but until then I may actually need this mana. So it turns out he's got Tooth and Nail entwined, and Strip Mine would not have saved me from that. And I figured here comes like Terastodon and I don't know what. But actually it's Sylvan Primordial and Prophet of Krufrix. What? Who needs that? Okay, so he goes and gets those 2 cards, and then he Primordials the Abyss, which, I mean, you know, makes sense, and then dumps his hand down to 1 card. Excuse me, so works for me. So I just upkeep, go for it. I vault, and vault, and vault, and vault. And look at how, I was at 34. Oh, I had Zerzweird in here for a very short while, I think. It's gone. I was thinking Zerzweirding is crazy with Oloro, but the problem with that is, take this board here. If I had Zerzweirding, say that Limdol's Vault was Zerzweirding, even though I gain 2 life a turn and I can keep him from drawing, I could not play Azur's Weirding because I'd be getting my face smashed in, and I could keep him from drawing indefinitely, but he could keep me from drawing, and he answers to his guys. That's no good. It's a card that only works when you're winning. So even though it seems like a natural pairing for Oloro, I don't think it's the right. I don't think that it makes any sense whatsoever to play a card that only works when you're winning or when the board has parity. You want cards that'll dig you out of a hole, not help you out when they're already in them. Not fail to assist you when you're already in one. So anyway, with Prophet's ability, he's able to flash Chancellor of the Spire here in response to the Terminus. However, he makes a critical error that costs him the game. So Terminus's Miracle effect goes on the stack, so he flashes Chancellor and he targets my counterspell, and I point out to him that it's a little bit early. He can't play the counterspell because this is the Miracle effect on the stack. You can't counter that with a counterspell. So after it resolves, his Chancellor shuts off. It's not like Snapcaster Mage. So now that the Chancellor's ability shut off, I activate Terminus, and he's like, oh, he feels like he lost the game with that misplay, and I would tend to agree. So I double strip, trying to get him down to a little bit sanity there, and I've got Karn active, strip mine going, and Oloro's about to pop out since he killed my Abyss, and he gives up, I think, in frustration. I'm not sure how the game would have turned out if he hadn't made that error. May have turned out poorly for me. I don't know. It would have been a very interesting game. I mean, without it, I still had my commander who could come down, and I had that Karn in play, who could take down like the biggest thing on his side of the board, and then my commander draws 2 cards per turn when it's in play. So who knows how it would have worked out, but it wasn't looking good till that happened. So I double mulligan into this, and I keep it precisely because Isochron unexpectedly absent and shop. So all I need to do is draw any mana source, any artifact mana, and I'm good. I draw Force of Will. I'm feeling pretty good about that. So okay, mana. Okay, almost any artifact mana source. I draw Mox Opal, so I'm 1 short. Now I can actually get active even if I draw like Scroll Rack or something. So any artifact or land here. Nope, it's a Terminus. So he harrows and I force, figuring if he couldn't do anything with 3 mana last turn, I might as well force now. He won't be able to do anything with 3 mana next turn, and there's a chance he doesn't have mana, and then that just wins the game for me. Nope. And he has a sort of, well, it's not a threat. Ooh, nice. An Impulse I can't cast. He's got Oracle now. I'm really afraid because, well, first of all, he's going to be able to play Curse of Echoes Exhaustion on me, so that's not too bad, but I don't want him to hit lands and like come roaring out the gates, because the other reason for countering the Harrow is that if you notice he has no blue and he hasn't played any blue, so no double white either. So I don't know what he could have, like maybe the Sun Titan, or obviously playing his commander, but that was the other reason for the play that I made. I draw Limdol's Vault that I can't cast. He plays this little thing, I guess it's like a defense for creatures. And I draw a Well, which I can cast. And now Mox Opal is active. Hello. He hits some lands, but it's not blue, and plays Asceticism. So his creatures he controls have hexproof. And watch what happens now. So upkeep, Well. I decide I'm going to go for it. And I find no mana. Alright, well, don't watch what happens now. Let's see what happens next. Luckily he misses a land drop, and I realize, and then he plays Quicksilver Amulet, and I realize that I am in major trouble if he untaps with this active. So, no more going to the Well. So, I don't Well, and I immediately unexpectedly absent the Amulet, which means he's going to draw it again. So he plays it again, and he attacks. Now you get to see the power of this combo here. I draw a land. Yes! Unexpectedly absent that thing for 0. He decides he's not going to play it. That's fine by me. I'll take a card and unexpectedly absent that thing. He draws his Asceticism, hits me for pointless damage. I'm down to 40. Now I can Well again. I draw and Tithe. Heck yeah. Going for all kinds of mana now. And I go fetch and Demonic Tutor for Gilded Lotus. Ooh, mana situation's looking real nice. I Brainstorm, still have that Disenchant in this version, and Unexpectedly Absent Mimic Vat. So he hits me for some damage. I get to draw a couple of cards, and then I Unexpectedly Absent his Mistmead. Discard. He gets to hit me for some damage and discard. And to turn, I go ahead and just take his Oracle, because instead of absenting it, I want to continue to develop, and at this point I've got counters, and there isn't much he's going to be doing. My Ancestral running every turn, and so I start developing, and of course disrupting as well. Prime one being Mind Twist for 7. Crunch, and I know what his top card is, I know it's worthless, and even if he draws it and casts it, of course I'm going to Unexpectedly Absent. If he doesn't draw and cast it, then you know, what are you going to do here? So amazing game. I hope you enjoyed that. You can see the power of Isochron in this deck with Unexpectedly Absent is totally godly, and this deck can put it together very easily. Okay, so here's Obzidat playing against Oloro, and I have to mulligan. And I mulligan into this, which looks like a keep. And he's got no development early. Good for me. So I'm just going to chill out. Memory Lapse if he plays. Impulse if he doesn't. He didn't, so we Impulse, and I take, oh yummy, Soul Ring. So I get down Soul Ring and Coalition Relic with a Memory Lapse ready to go. He's got Uncounterable Humans? Uncounterable Humans, okay. So I charge up Coalition Relic, and this one draws a card for him if he plays others, so it's a bit of a problem, but I've got my commander and a protective counterspell ready to go. This is only turn 4. So he ramps for Erebos, the exact perfect answer to my commander, and I'm like, I can't believe this, seriously? So I Memory Lapse it, of course. He plays Soul's Attendant, puts it right back into his hand, but at least it's not in play, so I get to draw one card here. And I draw Copy Artifact, not a solution to that thing. So before he draws any more cards, oh wait, I figured, here's what I did. I thought about killing his guys before he drew more cards, but then I realized that if he does play like a cheap creature here and draw some cards, I can just kill it along with everything else, and that's definitely preferable for me than him putting the enchantment into play. So I actually don't kill them specifically to try to entice him into playing a cheap creature over playing Erebos. He doesn't take the bait, or he doesn't have one and he plays Erebos, and I'm like, ah, man. So now I'm going to actually start taking damage. No more 49 life for me. But I've got land, so that's okay. I mean, hey, I've got land, right? Anyway, after combat, I go ahead and kill these guys because I don't want them drawing additional cards off of those. Pass for the turn. He plays Sorin. Yuck. So even my hopes of, you know, getting there with Oloro damage are now sunk. Start attacking Sorin, of course. He's just going to chump. But what can you do? So then he plays Knight of the White Orchid, and I totally blow it. It says can't be countered. Oops. Luckily it's remand. I was going to remand anything anyway, but I would have definitely preferred to let that hit and then remand whatever his next card was, which turns out to be Consuming Vapors. Man, what a terrible misplay there. Misread. It was an RTFC moment. For those of you who don't know, that means read the fucking card. So anyway, I just charge up my relic and top deck like a champion. Liliana Vess. So Vess gets down and I go searching. What do you get here, folks? What do you get? Here's the deck list. Pause it if you need to think about it. Alright, I'll show you what you get. So he gets to Vapors again, but of course it doesn't matter. I didn't play my commander a second time. And he plays Sanguine Bond. So whenever I lose life, he gains that much life. So he's going to start everything he's got basically as lifelink. And even my own damage will do it to me, like my Misty Rainforest. But of course I can't sack it in response. I want my top card. So what did I get? I got Blue's Best Card Drawer. And what you want to be using when you don't have your guy active. So boom, mystical teachings on top, and we are off to the races. So I teach and I hold down control so that if the top card's an instant like Brainstorm, I can respond to my own spell by playing Brainstorm off the top of my library. So it's just a hint for people who play Future Sight, always hold down control. So I fetch myself an Enlightened Tutor, play a land off the top, play Enlightened Tutor, and bam! Let's see you use that Erebos now, sucker. So I clone my Soul Ring, and down comes Winter Orb. I was having a serious lag problem, so yeah, I logged out and logged in. That was also part of the reason I didn't realize with the remand here, but still, it was stupid. Lag or not, I should have taken my time before just knee-jerk reacted on that one. Anyway, so he sends in for 4 points of damage, and he's got me down to 40. This deck is insane. And so I draw, there's a Shackles there, so I figure I'll go ahead and take that. Play a map off the top, Shackles, revealing a Hinder, so I'm just going to chill on Hinder. Take a bunch of damage. He can ultimate his guy, but there's nothing for him to kill, so his ultimate's irrelevant to me. He's just making more and more guys. We'll deal with those in a second. So he's like struggling to figure out how to attack into a Shackles. The problem is there's no right answer here. So he sends that way, and I just snag his untapped guy and trade 2 for 0. And he draws some cards off of Erebos. I guess he was so keen to draw cards off, he didn't realize how horrible that is under Winter Orb. I have a bunch of cards you can't cast. I am cool with that. So I go ahead and LDV, digging, and every time I lose life, every time I pay a life, it triggers his Sanguine Bond. And so I set up Mox Diamond on top of Chalice for 2, on top of Talisman, on top of Oblivion Ring, which takes down Erebos. Bam! My commander is live. And so, as you can see, in those earlier games I had Disenchant and realized that Erebos might be a problem and swapped it out for O-Ring, and right here, payoff. And also, by the way, yeah, I threw a land under all that stuff, so I put that into play as well. I did not set up the Jace, but that's okay. So now, what's he going to do? He's going to keep, so I'll just set my library here. He can keep, he makes like emblems. He's made some emblems with his guys, so they're like really big and stuff, but yeah, we're not too concerned about that. They'll never get bigger than the number of islands I control. So he sends in with them that way, and I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'm not going to block. I'm not going to take him on block, but, oh, at the end of your turn, I am going to take your knight. And now I'm going to start attacking your Sauron with it, which only has 3 counters. And, oh, yeah, I'm going to play Jason, bounce your blocker. And when you play another one, I'm going to bounce that too, and then I'm going to knight and kill your guy. So at that point, he gives up. I think it was a completely awesome game. We're going on a super long video here. We're almost done, but it is a maiden voyage for Oloro, and hopefully you're enjoying this trip with me. So now the rest of the games have Oloro with the deck exactly as it should be. Everything's perfect in it, at least what I think is perfect at this point in time. So this opponent decides to play land tax games with me, and I'm thinking like, what is he running Nature's Claim in his deck? Well, that's fine with me. I'm not actually playing games. So then I finally draw this and I think, should I ramp out? You know what? I don't think. I'm just gonna get a few more cards here from, and then I realize, like, you know, if he draws Nature's Claim, that's gonna backfire in my face. So I'm just gonna develop. And he gets Secure a Tribe Elder. How worthless when you're trying not to let me tax, right? So just draw and say go. And he plays a spell, and that's all I needed. So thanks for the mana. And since I draw a shop, I go ahead and just shop. I think. No, I guess not. No. Oh yeah, I did. A Demonic Tutor for Well of Lost Dreams. Shop. You know what? Why bother dorking around with land tax? He can sack his Secure and get his 3rd land for these, but he still can't play a land. And at that point, Well of Lost Dreams is over. So here I was playing against, what am I playing? The new one, Prosh? Oshkosh B. Prosh, I guess. I don't know. and I'm going first, and I top deck that Tomb. I have a complete mana flood, but with Tezzeret in hand, I think, you know what, I'm going to keep this. And then with the Tomb showing up, making it a much faster draw, everything feels just fine. So I do this, and then I do that. So I was really torn here because one of the interesting things about Tezzeret is, if I and I'll tell you, if I had an instant to put under the Scepter, I would have untapped this and then put the instant, and then next turn I would have Tezzed for 4. He comes with 4 counters, right, and get Well of Lost Dreams. So this is another thing that I think is really amazing about this deck, is that Tezzeret can actually fetch the best card in the deck, which is huge because Tezzeret is one of the best cards in the deck. So anyway, my opponent gets Sylvan. It's like being able to activate Tezzeret and go get Necropotence or something. It's just crazy. And I go for the gigantic scroll rack, and that is it, folks. That is it. Down comes Well, Tezzeret for 0, Mana Crypt for Isochron, Isochron for a counterspell. I'm not even going to bother to Winter Orb him right now. He's got, you know, things to work around it, but how's he going to work around this? So Viscera Seer, that's okay. Jar of Eyeballs, that draws cards, and besides that, he's out of mana, and we're going to say no. Well, I guess he had one more. And here we go. Oloro Well. We're going to the well. Draw 3 cards per turn. So I Tezzeret and fetch myself even more mana. Mox Opal this time. And now that he's pretty much locked down, I go ahead and play my commander to protect Tezzeret. And I've got 2 mana for Isochron as well as the Force of Will. So he plays an Endless Cockroaches, which is interesting. I guess it works with Seer. It's like another trader. It's like another spirit, rather, but it works when you have more than one creature in your deck. Actually, this deck would... I'm not even going to finish that sentence. I was going to say this deck will work with another spirit. Forget that. We need power cards. So I go ahead and just ship away all that stuff there and smash, knowing he's going to block and scry. Not a problem. So Tezzeret untaps. I get to play Crucible. Replay a Sackland because I don't want the top cards in my library and play this. Yeah, you can go ahead and attack Tezzeret for 1. I'm okay with that, fella. He plays Edric Sar, and I just counterspell it again, and he gives up. Rightly so. If you could have seen my hand, he probably would have given up much sooner, probably at the beginning of that turn. He gets to attack Tezzeret for 1. I get to Sackland away all those lands I didn't want. Fact or Fiction 5 cards, draw 3 cards next turn. My god, it's just crazy. Anyway, last game. So this game is not in my queue. I was just one I loaded up because I thought it was interesting, and so I saved it for last, hoping that the video wouldn't blow up in my face. And I get first turn Imperial Seal, and this is why I'm running. It's one of the reasons why I'm running Dark Tutelage instead of Necro, not in addition to it, instead of Phyrexian Arena, not in addition to it. Life is just not at all relevant. Drawing cards cheaply is, and it lets you do stuff like this. And look how good that is. Like it's just amazing to be able to play something that powerful with colorless mana. So immediately I'm winning the game. Probably, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, so I do something that like you will never see a typical control deck. Like you will never see a control deck do this under most circumstances. A Mana Crypt and a Dark Tutelage and a cloned Mana Crypt. How insane is that? But for this deck, because of Oloro, it's nothing to me. Seriously, life is nothing. And because the way things are going, I want to show you this. This is very cool. You've seen it before, but there's something else that happens that's very cool, and I want you to check it out. Okay, so yeah, I'll just Dark Tutelage and Impulse. So check this out. Oh, yeah, I play Karn. That's not the cool part. Okay. For some reason, my opponent doesn't give up. I don't know what he thinks he might have that'll get him out of this spot. But, okay. Look at this. Double Mana Crypt and a Dark Tutelage, and I'm at 40-frickin-1. It's just nuts. Oloro is nuts. So, during my upkeep, I unexpectedly absent, targeting the Mana Crypt that I activated, which is a copy of this Mana Crypt. So, absent resolves, and I draw for the turn a copy artifact, and then play the copy artifact, cloning Isochron Scepter, putting Impulse underneath it, and now I have yet another card drawing machine. So start impulsing, play tax, because what I need is more cards. And now I get to tax, dark tutelage. Oh, also no longer double mana crypt anymore. And then I get to impulse. Like, how many cards does this freaking deck draw? It's just ridiculous. Was that like over the top? Yeah, probably, but it's so cool. What a neat. This card, I love this card. I'm seriously, this is. I used to sometimes when I'm playing and I have a deck and I think to myself like, there is a card that I need printed to complete my deck. And for a really long time, this is exactly the kind of card I was thinking of. And I swear, like, somebody at Wizards literally read my mind, because it needed to be 2 mana. It needed to do exactly what this one does, and it needed to be in these colors. The only difference is I didn't anticipate it having the X to put something deeper. But I figured if they would only print something that was 2 mana specifically, because of Muddle the Mixture and Isochron, and did exactly what this does, I was just going to be so happy to replace Disenchant, and then they did it. So again, this is a look at the deck. I appreciate you watching this very long video. Welcome to a number of videos that will be featuring Oloro, I'm sure, because this deck is absolutely crazy and it's an absolute blast to play. Thanks for watching.